We had, oh yes, let me hear it again. Thank you. There's some energy. We are talking about the food system today. We have two fantastic people up here. First, I have Chef Rasmus Munk, Michelin star chef and founder of The Alchemist. Woo! Yeah. We also have Nick Adler, co-founder of Monty's and VP of Festivals at Golden Voice. All right, take it away.
Check. Hi. What's up over here? You guys are quiet. Cool. All right. Just make sure we're all awake here. My name's Nick. Luckily, I got to come here 10 years ago with an idea of creating an experience around food and beverage, and perfect environment. You're in the discovery mindset. You're looking for something new. You're open. You're in it with friends. There's like all these special things that kind of line up, and I think a lot of what you do is a similar. It's a different environment. It's a different food, but it's the setting is so important. And you came all the way from Copenhagen. I just want to kind of set the table a little bit by talking about food and how important food is in Denmark. And I don't know, everyone knows how Denmark leads a lot of the kind of pushing the boundaries with what chefs are doing with food and technique. If you could just talk a little bit about that, and I think that'll help everybody understand how important Denmark is to what's happening in the food scene.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, Denmark is quite in the forefront of gastronomy. It is fine dining and has been for some years now. We have a very well-known restaurant called Noma. It's been the best restaurant in the world, sometimes, I think 5 times. So it's a country where like at least fine dining and new trends is set, new techniques, new way of thinking about food, and very known for new Nordic cuisine. We opened in 2019, and now we are the 5th best restaurant in the world, and have done what we call more holistic cuisine. So we try to combine the arts, different artistic fields, and storytelling into the gastronomy world. So it's a very immersive dining experience based around this.
Why do you think that Denmark created the space for kind of pushing the boundaries around food? What is it in the culture that allowed for that space to happen?
I think one of the reasons, at least, why Denmark or Copenhagen have these like chefs that's maybe a little bit more pushing the envelopes and go outside the box is probably that we don't have any like heritage or like any cultural, very deep cultural within food. So like Spain or France or Mexico, like there's Japan, there's a big knowledge, and there's been through generations there's been a food culture, and we don't have that in Denmark. We kind of lost it on the way. So it's very it's not the, like established older generation kind of structuring what is possible to do and what you need to do.
And it's so interesting that on one side kind of pushing the boundaries, but then foraging is really well known and part of the food culture. So it's like push the boundaries over here, but do the most kind of innate, go gather your food, right? That is a big part of the food culture also.
Yeah, I think from the new Nordic cuisine and what made it famous was probably the foraging part. And I think there's some, a lot of people say it's a new cuisine, the new Nordic cuisine, but it was maybe actually just a rediscovering of what we have forgotten, like going out and foraging local ingredients, eating wild foods, and I think this inspired a lot of countries to look in the backyards, and maybe the most innovative things is actually just to look around and eat some of these things that's next to you. So it's interesting how something so simple and kind of like common sense could be also innovative.
It sounds very Nordic too, just very simple, but also so complicated. Like it's almost like how I see whether it's furniture or art, or it's very simple, clean, but you just look on the other side and there's so much there to do that. Yeah. And then what you've done is you've moved a little bit away from kind of the foraging into more using food as a way to express social issues. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit?
I mean, Noma and the new Nordic cuisine and foraging and think locally has been a natural part of my chef career, because when I was educating as a chef, Noma was declared the best restaurant in the world, and so it's been a natural thing to think locally and foraging, and so for me to take the next step of what can a restaurant experience be, it was to start thinking more holistic about it and try to create this more immersive experience where we combining different artistic fields into it, and also raise awareness in our platform. I think the chef and restaurant platforms is normally being used to collect money for charity, so like talk about the farmer and the different herbs, where it's coming from, and we talking about the subject as hunger in the third world, or organ donation, or child labor in the chocolate industry. So like we take on some subjects that's normally not forbidden, but common, where it's related to food. It's normally not something as chefs talk about. It's more in the artistic world where musicians or artists, painters, theaters is having this narrative of something bigger than just the craft itself. And I think that where we going right now is to try to take astronomy, not just eat as a craft, but also have the layers on top of it that we can speak out to the world.
In doing research around the restaurant, I just felt like the person that's there must be so vulnerable in that moment, because like you're hungry, you're expecting dinner and in your mind, and then you're presenting something that's really, I mean, you must have had some interesting interactions with some of the people, because from what I saw, it really pushes you to think and makes you uncomfortable. Was that something you were trying to do?
I don't hope that people will feel too uncomfortable for the night, but we use provocation as a tool of communicating, and also sometimes create this disgust or uncomfortable feeling with the guests through the night, because then we stir up some memories, maybe even more than we would have done if we had just played it in a nice, beautiful place. So some of the stories and dishes like organ donation or hunger or child labor is some more serious subjects, and can create these moments for the guests to but sometimes be uncomfortable, but also like reflecting upon it. And I think that's what you can do with great arts and music, and also with food. You can create these moments, and mainly our guests is knowing what they go in for, but still they can have this more than just the food itself. And I think that's interesting that food can do that. And we as chefs has a big platform, and there's celebrity chefs around, and like chefs in general have a lot of they have a big voice to talk about things. And I think that's interesting to use the craft for something more than just great food.
How do you go from a very kind of what I would say a traditional chef of putting food on the plate to the immersive, like taking that chance? What kind of pushed you over the edge?
Yeah, for me it was an experience with, I have a charity organization.
You know what, I'm going to get them to turn that music down really quick. No?
Okay. But I had a charity organization doing food for kids that have a hard time Christmas Eve. And it was one Christmas Eve where I was cooking this meal, which was like with one hand on the back, doing very traditional Christmas foods, and it made so many people happy. And then I looked at my career, where it was more reaching for Michelin stars and kind of egocentric in a way that you worked hundreds of hours to try to get accolades and just making this very nice technique on a nice plate. And I mean, everything was like, why do I do this? And I quit my job. I was head chef in a restaurant that was a little famous in Denmark, and I quit my job there. And then I wanted to do something that was more meaningful with my life. But I like the creativity within the industry. I like to create, and that was the idea about creating Alchemist, was we change the world through gastronomy. And today now we have a great voice in gastronomy. We do all from like local kids hospitals, how the food should look like there, to a homeless organization cooking for the homeless in Denmark, to creating new proteins for the world. So we maybe be one key element in creating a solution for hunger. So I mean, for me, this is like interesting that the food can do that, and gastronomy and restaurants.
Maybe just because a lot of people maybe they haven't seen the restaurant, or they definitely haven't seen the dishes. Can you talk through one of the dishes to try to help people visualize what you're doing?
Yeah, we have a dish that's called Plastic Fantastic example, which is talking about plastic in the oceans. And when we opened the restaurant, Danish Technology Institute came out with a report that 1/3 of all costs was filled with microplastic inside. And if you look at a global scale, plastic in the oceans is a huge problem. So we have this cut jaw bone where you need to like withdraw the meat from the bone itself, but it's topped with edible plastic that's made of the collagen from the cut skin. So you get this like feeling of eating plastic. You withdraw the meat and the plastic from the bone, and it's served on in a dish that's made of like oil bottles with a little plastic insert. Recycled by the ocean with plastic in it, and then we have this planetarium dome, so a little bit like planetarium. We have these projectors lighting up a story regarding jellyfish swimming around with plastic bags. So in more canvases than just the food, we also try to tap into this storytelling, and here talking about plastic.
And is it all in one room, or you have different settings that you take people through? So it's not a traditional restaurant in the sense of you walk in, you sit at the table, and you sit there.
There's more room. It's like a 2,000 square meter space for 50 guests a night. So it's divided into different acts, and you come through 2 art installations through the evening, and then you come into 5 different rooms where the main dining room is this planetarium. There's constantly changing the scenography in the dome with these 10 projections lighting up the content and ceiling.
And do you work directly with an artist? How do you create that story, or how do you create the imagery that goes with the food? And I'm sure there's audio there as well.
Yeah, we have in total 110 employees, so it's a big team, a very diverse as well as skill set. There's like all from script writers to graphic designers, VFX artists, to sound composers, of course, to chefs and waiters, also to dancers. So it's a huge, very diverse team, both in nationality-wise, but also skill set. So and then we collaborate with different artists from around the world, also trying to investigate into different fields of how can we be inspired from this artistic field, and how can we collaborate and put it into the restaurant. So the first couple of years it was very much about the theater, the opera, then it was architecture, and design, and this last year has been a lot with psychology, and trying to get psychology but also magicians and part of the restaurant experience, and put it in a frame where it's aesthetic on a high level and gastronomy.
And I was looking at the one dish with the eyeball in it, and the dish seems so far from where the social message, but you're able to take them from this dish and then kind of have them spend time thinking about something that might be uncomfortable to them.
Yeah, the eye is a guy that's making eyes for different very famous movies like Lord of the Rings, and we got him to make a big eyeball that we need to eat from, so that you're going into the pool, and then you break through this kind of bread, there's like making this noise of breaking into the eye with an eye gel made of cut ice, and then like this little salad right now is a lobster and caviar. So in flavors it's quite traditional, but of course the storytelling in a more theatrical setting is a little bit more uncomfortable. And this one is talking about Big Brother is watching you, and inspired by George Orwell 1984. And at the same time in the dome we have this surveillance content with different screens, showing some historical moments from our world with AI technology, with Facebook, social medias, and also it's actually recording the guests and show them in the screen as well.
And do you see the guests being, I would feel exhausted almost. Just, you're taking me up, down, making me think about things. I now have to taste while I'm thinking. It's sometimes eating is very lazy, right? That's almost probably the majority of our meals are lazy eating, and people must go through such a workout. When they come out, they must exhale a little bit.
Yeah, it's quite an experience that we best that you're prepared for. Because they will be stimulated very much, like all of your senses, and we have a lot of guests saying that they need to digest for quite a long time. So it is an experience where you will get, if you want and are open-minded, you can get quite a lot of layers out of it, and I think that's very interesting. The food also can do this, and of course it's not every day you want to go for a meal like that. I think it's the same to going to a concert. Yeah, it would be nice to stand here 3 days and hear all of the loud music, but if you did it every day, it would probably be too much stimulation. And I think food can also do that, and experiences can do that. So for me, I see Alchemist in a restaurant like that as a thing you can do once in a life. It's nice if people come back, but to get there and get the experience, get stimulated, I think it's you can compare it to like fine arts, and I think it's interesting to take food and gastronomy into that direction, because there's like always this phrase, the chefs as artists, and when you see the chefs plating dishes with tweezer, but many times it's within this frame of pleasure, and you need to, it's still very comfortable, and it's still something that needs to please you and be pleasant. But if you look at great art, sometimes it's things that also provoke you, or make you think and reflect and talk about things that happen in society, and I think we try to do the same thing with gastronomy and make it more a voice and a platform. And then it's secondary that not secondary in the way that we don't focus on it, but like flavors and these things is just for me a medium of express myself, and then of course we focus on that the things need to be good quality and need to be cooked well and all.
One of the first things you did was around organ donation, or that was a catalyst for some of the ideas. Talk through that it really came from a personal place into something that got a lot of attention.
Yeah, it was a friend of mine that had a sister that was on the waiting list for getting an organ. And in Denmark, you're not automatically signed up for being an organ donor, so only 24% is signed up to be, but 80% is positive about signing up, but never got the time to like do it, or when is the time that you put off like an afternoon to sit down and say, okay, now I sign up to get my organs away if whatever happens. So it's a big problem, and there's a lot of people waiting, a lot of patients waiting, and she was one of the ones waiting and never got an organ, unfortunately, and died. And that was when I heard these statistics about the problem. It was a thing that I would like to talk about. So we did this lamb heart in the restaurant, where it was like lamb heart tartare inside, and then you got poured this blood sauce on top of it, with this transfusion back into the restaurant. And then you got a folder, you could sign up to be organ donor at the same time.
At the table?
Yeah, at the table. So you have this organ donation card, and you sign up in the middle of your meal. And it was a very small restaurant back then, there were only like 15 seats, but we signed up over 1,500 donors. And then BBC Worldwide made a story about this restaurant in Copenhagen that was doing this about organ donation. And I mean, back then we were not number 5, the 5th best restaurant in the world. We didn't have Michelin stars or anything. We were just a couple of chefs in a very small, humble place. And I was like, if food can do this, and can communicate such an important story. And it's very interesting to follow that path and find out how big impact can you actually do with your voice within gastronomy, and how far can you take it that way. So it was kind of like one of these moments that changed our direction, at least our focus point on what we wanted to do with our business.
What has been the reaction of other chefs? Because I spend a lot of time around chefs, and there's a lot of ego, there's a lot going on there. But I was wondering what kind of reactions you got from friends and non-friends that are in that world.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we see each other, we kind of friends always, and then we wait to talk bad about each other when we leave the building. So I think I can feel like the established gastronomy has been, especially at the start, was a little bit like, what is this circus about? Why do we need to do this? And there's still today the skepticism about what we're doing, and why do we need to communicate through food, and why do we need to talk about child labor in the chocolate industry, meanwhile enjoying a meal. So there's this very conservative way of looking at it, and I think it's interesting to push through, because when we look at the market, so like our waiting list, we have been privileged since we opened to now to have a waiting list that exceeds over like 500 million people on it. So we have been solid booked since we opened, and that's, I think it's shown that there's at least a market for it, and for guests that would like this more storytelling and like this more layers into the world. So I don't understand the skepticism and the conservative maybe opinion about it, but when you see it from the outside, you see this restaurant serving a high and like a dome, and there's a wire list or like a dancer in front of you, and there's a lot of things going on, and you can maybe as a chef, like, okay, are you losing track or like focus on the flavors and the techniques and all of these things, and we don't do that. So I think after the Michelin stars came to the restaurant, after we've been declared the best restaurant in the world last year, Ferran and Ria saying that this is an amazing restaurant, and like all of this knowledge or accolades into it, has been a little bit less skepticism, but it's still there, and we also get chefs in where they say like, I thought it would be a circus, but after I ate here I also understand how it's good. There was a lot of focus about flavors and techniques and stuff like that. So it's
chefs can be very traditional. They're brought through a very traditional system of this is how you do this and this and this, and so I could see them having a lot of feelings. While we're talking, reaching out, seeing if there's any thoughts or questions out there. If you don't have one, I'm going to call on you. The question is, fine dining, is fine dining dead?
Yeah, I think I know who said that, but no, I don't think it's dead. I think it's maybe for that restaurant it's dead, but I mean there's been this glossy image in our industry that fine dining needs to kind of hurt in a way that chefs and the whole back end need to be unpaid or like work hundreds of hours a week or to create this local foragey dish with a local like ceramics that made ceramics for it, and like and just like talking about the biodynamic farmers and all of these things, and at the same time the back end is not paid or like treated properly. I think with Alchemist we showcase that it's possible to run a restaurant where everybody is paid, you get pensions, health insurance, and you don't work more than 45 hours a week, as we keep within the EU law. But if you also increase the prices to be able to do that, like, so I think it's been a glossy image of like what are you getting as a customer in restaurants for this amount of money, and the chefs and restaurants has maybe not been able because the market was not there for that at that point, but then they compromised with some values that was maybe never intended to be compromised on. And also in the gastronomy world, we're kind of competing with salaries that is very different, and societies that's very different by each other. So it's I don't think it's dead at all, but I think restaurants need to require what it actually costs to create this kind of experience, and maybe there will be less fine dining restaurants in the future because this will be something you do once in a lifetime because it costs a little bit more to do it, but then you can also make it sustainable, but both financially and human-wise. But I think to say fine dining is dead was the same thing as we have done with innovations. We cannot innovate anymore. Of course, fine dining is not dead. It will keep growing and be something that's innovative and also contribute with solutions for the future. I mean, we're going for a new project to get a space perspective in the States, going to the edge of space and cooking in a capsule for 6 guests where you pay $500,000 for a meal. And I mean, that's like to sound very like elitary and like only for like a certain amount of people, and it is. But the 2 years of research is going into this, where some of the innovations will drizzle down to society. We already made a technique where we can create crispy texture, but when you swallow it, you will not have this feeling of anything crispy. And we use that for like kids with cancer that have like a chemotherapy where you have a home rollable in your throat. And I think you can put it into like a category like Formula 1, where like today it's been a reason that all the brakes and electric cars with batteries is better and better and better. So I think when you have something on the top, it will always be there and it will keep innovating, and then some of them will die out through that process. And I think we will see less of them in the future, but also see more fine dining restaurants that have like a story to tell and something more on the art than just craft. And I think we can compare that to art in the art world. If you're just a good making your craft, and you can be an amazing painter and you can put it on very nicely. But if you don't have these extra layers to it, is it an art? And define that. And I think fine dining in the future will be more art than just fine dining.
It's not. It almost shouldn't be called a restaurant. Do you call it a restaurant?
Yeah, we do right now because we lack of words for actually telling what we do. We have the famous wonderful director of the Copenhagen Philharmonic that was kind of equalized to the Renaissance in Italy with opera singers, or actors and singers being in the same rehearsal studios and come out with the art of opera. And I think a little bit, not to put it in the same context as that, like as that big, but the same thing happening at Alchemist. We get PhD students together with artists, together with chefs, together with dancers, together with sound composers, and all of these people together is creating a new kind of experience where gastronomy is a big part of it, but it's also more than just food. But right now we're lacking of a word for it. Maybe it's just art, but right now we can Google and still call ourselves a restaurant.
And are you seeing it spread? Are you seeing other restaurants or other chefs doing something similar?
Yeah, we can see younger generation and new open restaurant is focusing more on I would say the holistic part of it, both like the social responsibility of treating your staff good and being closed on Saturdays, and like I see more restaurants now focusing on that part so you can have families, but also paying pension and also get some stories through your dishes, and also think about like what is the painting down here in the room, and sometimes to the architecture that's quite amazing. So it's I see more and more as a trend happening in the world, and I think it will be the future that people will love to have the experience part of it as well.
What does a regular day look like for you? And how much cooking versus almost the planning and the music and the art? Well, what does a regular day look like for you?
I mean, it's quite. My schedule is quite busy and filled up, but I have two amazing head chefs that's taking care of the daily prep, so I'm not in the kitchen chopping chives and tasting the sauce for the evening. I have a tasting every night at 5 o'clock where I'm going through all of the dishes and all of the sauces and tasting their things is okay, but otherwise I'm more conceptualizing things. And I think also it's one of the images that I like to kind of break up with in this industry. You normally, if you get a journalist or you have a photo shoot or something like that, they want your chef to be with a knife in your hand or standing in the kitchen and like extracting on your pan and like whatever it could be. But I see myself more at meetings with sound composers and standing in the dome and direct what kind of color should this be, or should it saturate a little bit more here, or like what kind of ingredients do we need to look into, or can we use this technique from space, can we use that within the children's hospital. So I see myself more as a storyteller and a entrepreneur and craft different things through my medium, and then my medium is just cooking. And I think that starts to get acknowledged in our industry, but it's still very, in that way, very conservative industry.
And where was that in your back? Did you have that in your background, or did that you just kept going with it?
Yeah, it's been a thing that's been. I mean, from I built my first restaurant where I had an opinion about what should the color of the walls be, to what kind of lighting should I use. To now to curate different art installation rooms, and I have a very deep opinion about what should be here for the guests and the guest experience. So it's just a thing that I think I have been valued a lot as well, and find out that to be creative on more campuses, just the food has been very given for me, and I love to be creating tableware together with our industrial designers to talk about what kind of music should be here, or the dance of the dancer. And so in that way it stimulates me to be creative, and also take me out of the limitations there's within food, because the food can be limited within temperatures or the flavors or the product itself. There's limitations, but when you then can create music or the visual technology or the rooms, there's another way of being creative. And I think that's just been very given for me, not any background for it. So I think it's and I think today, if I choose when I was 14, instead of going to the cooking school, if I went into architecture, I would probably have been a creative architect or something like that instead. Maybe not successful, but at least I could be creative on other campuses. So right now, food is becoming more and more, I will not say secondary, because it can be, then you can feel like we don't care about it, but we do, and we have 35 chefs in the kitchen and 10 research chefs only doing focus on food and the dishes and how the technique and flavors need to be. So it's a thing that we use a lot of time on, because also if you go into a restaurant like Alchemist and you see all of this amazing visual technology and different artistic rooms where you come in and you get an overcooked service, everything will fall apart. So it's important that it's on the highest level.
Any questions out there?
We're cooking in space, so I will define that as the stage. We're launching from Florida coast in the end of 2025, but it will be on the stratosphere. So right now I don't have the need and maybe the ego of like expanding, because it's still a very, Alchemist is a very personal project in a way, and it's very. There's not so many details into it, many stories to tell, and then it's very personal. So in that way, it's for me not sustainable to do for the rest of my life. So it had a time for me. Within this time, I can do this kind of restaurant. But I would like to expand in the way that we have our new venture, Spora, which is an innovation center within food. We need to create the new food of tomorrow, together with some of the biggest companies in the world, and work with some companies here in the States about creating products and new food technologies that can go out and be scalable, holistic, and sustainable, and go out and make actually change. And one of the companies we work with is San Francisco Wild Type, doing self-farmed salmon, so cultivated salmon.
Can you share one thing that you've learned about? Obviously, I haven't cooked in space yet, but you must have done a ton of research around what it does to your senses. Is there anything you could share with us that is interesting about cooking for space?
I mean, the whole project, we just launched it here in I think it was March, and so it's a relatively new project. We have been, the last half year, we have been doing research within it. What's interesting with this project is that it's a carbon neutral capsule you send up with hydrogen, and it's then there's not the noise there's in an airplane. You're 100,000 feet above sea level, but you don't have the noise, and that's very interesting because no one has done some research within that. So it's a thing. They have the first test flight here at the end of April, and then we hope we can get doing some test flights here in June or July.
With the food, and you'll be able to bring food in on test flights?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know they talk about airplane food being salty, just because you have some pressure, but also there's a lot of stimulation. So you have to play with that a little bit.
As we look into like the research that's been done, and there's been done a lot of research within airplane foods. I think what we can, because the pressure in the capsule would be kind of similar to an airplane, but what we don't have is the big noise, which is also very disturbing.
That's
taking a lot of it. So actually, I think it would be easier maybe to make the food at least taste very good in this setting.
Eric?
My wife and I were lucky enough to go to Africa and had dinner there last year with a cooler mind. What I think what was really amazing at is I know that he's a brilliant chef, but it's the idea of education and entertainment all kind of fused at once. It is an experience. It's like going to something like Coachella for food, and you get all these different elements. And when Coachella's involved, you don't taste it. It's like a restaurant involved in that. But you were talking before about connecting with children, doing things that are going to get back. Did you ever see, like, I know you had a lot of items from your family that are completely discarded, and they were sort of features and additions. So items that people don't really get to eat, and they're like just people, like, showing you how, like, really picky taste buds. Did you ever basically where you kind of open up their minds and how they look at food? So if you ever came, oh, you eat mac and cheese, give them an experience, but then you all of a sudden, like, have that, it's like, I think everything, again, I know, like, the restaurant and told me, and then explained what we ate to the people, and we were so many firsts for us. We were not about, like, you took your kids, or looking in the future, did you ever see something that where kids are having a hard time wanting to expand their minds? Like, it's not all about French fries and, chicken McNuggets. There's a whole world there.
Yes, I think educational is a part of, education is a part of the restaurant experience itself. We try not to do a lot of first times for a lot of guests coming to the restaurant, and we try with a holistic mindset. We try to go beyond the restaurant and doing different projects into society. We have done some children educational tools. It's on YouTube as well called Food Magic, directly translated, where we try to create appetite of science and food through our youngers, kids, and I'm in different boards about getting food on the public school program and get it more serious than it is today. And that's what disturbed me the most, and also very nervous for the future, because we talk a lot about sustainability, and making new sustainable products for the future, and we need to have the innovation to save us. But we don't use that much time on educating ourselves to take the best choices and actively doing a change. I think that's disturbing me that we take so many poor and bad choices and have so little knowledge about what we're actually consuming and what it do to our body, but also what it do to the environment. And you see many of these food cultures around the world is very deep in Denmark. We don't have it, but even in Japan, you see now the younger generation don't want to educate themselves as sushi masters, and they don't want to use the time to get into it. Maybe because it's not been an important enough thing in the puzzle from the start. So I think we need to, worldwide, government-wise as well, prioritize food on the same level as we do as maths and languages and stuff like that. We need to have a better understanding of what we do, and also what is the choices that we're making when we go out in the supermarkets and buy in for a meal. There's so many choices in that, and so many consequences that follow by that in our industry. And our industry is following what they're selling. So we need to be educating kids better, and we try to do with us, taking the things that we do at the restaurant and try to get them out in society, both for kids and children, but also to, of course, foodies and journalists and the people visiting our restaurant. And I think it's that's a really big need for the future.
not that dogmatic in that it needs to come from Denmark. We want to do what is rational and what makes sense, and also, of course, pursue what is the good flavors and these things. So, in example, I love Iberico ham from Spain. The Iberico ham is amazing, like the flavors, but it's something that you cannot get something similar from Denmark. Right? So it's a thing that we buy, or olive oil as well. But also we will never import meats besides like we will never import like fresh meat to the restaurant and serve. So we take whatever makes sense and rational, and also look at the science into it. A lot of people think that a tomato from Denmark is more sustainable than get it from Spain, but actually it requires a lot more energy to cultivate a tomato in Denmark than it takes to get it transported to Spain. So for the world, it would be better that we import the tomato from Spain instead of trying to cultivate it in Denmark. So we also look into the science part of it and not being too romantic philosophic about what we need to do. And also many people say like local food and the things just around us is the best. But now I've been head chef in 5 different cities, and it's definitely not always the thing that is the neighbor to you that's the best product. And then we try to cultivate. There's very much talk today about we need to go vegan or like vegetarian, and I think it's fine. We need to eat less meat for sure and better quality, but it's also. It's not really the truth to go completely vegan or vegetarian, because we have a planet that don't have the resources.
I've been vegan for 25 years. So.
If you just do it for I think if you just do it for
I gotta bring them over to Montague's after.
sustainability reasons, if everybody can be vegan or vegetarian tomorrow, the whole planet will just play around with that philosophy that we will not have resources enough on the planet Earth to do that. Of course, maybe through innovations and through technology, we could create new sustainable solutions. But I believe in the future, but we also need to eat meat, but we need to eat less of it and way less than we do today. But we also need to eat the whole animal. In Denmark, we produce so many pigs. We have more pigs than we have humans in Denmark, and 94% of that is exported to other countries, and some of the things is just discarded. So we need to look at the whole animal, stop export as much, produce for our local heritage, and I think that's important in the future. I love greens and vegetarians and vegans as well, but it's a need to be a part of the solution to think more green, but also that's why in the restaurant we serve so many offcuts. We get all from lamb brains to pig's tail to cow's udder to the eye of the fish, because we want to use the whole animal from nose to toe.
Related to fine dining, it's very elite. It's for it's not for everyone. Do you think that is going to change moving forward? Is that
like for example,
Do you think about the price point of it, or?
I mean, like when I think of fine dining, I think it's very like French European technique wise, right? So if you go out to like other parts of the world and whatnot, like there are different techniques and how to do things and how to do that. Basically, you define fine dining over the course of years.
I think there's a change sitting right now. What is defining fine dining? I think for many years it's been the Michelin guides that's been defining what fine dining is. And if you look at the 3-star Michelin restaurants around the world, I think there's 145 of them. And not to be quoted for this, but frankly, most of them look the same, kind of like it's very similar in many ways. It's like some starters, some snacks, some main courses, some proteins, the sauces, caviar, and like it's very the same. But I see the last couple of years has been the accolades within the world's 50 best restaurants in the world has been more restaurant that's been different and maybe more focused on their own thing and actually locally in many ways. So take the best restaurant in the world right now, Central in Peru. It's very food from Peru, like curated ingredients from the Amazonas, like very traditional and very locally food from Nomad, that's very new Nordic and like the backyard as well. So I think they're starting this movement of actually looking at something that's different from following the norm, and maybe the norm because the criteria of success of the fine restaurant has been Michelin guide. I can see that the world is kind of like not moving away from it because you want to get the knowledge from that, but you also see the Michelin guide actually changing and also acknowledge the restaurant like Alchemist where it's another kind of experience, and I think there will be more like that in the future. So I think the restaurants is now starting to actually maybe navigate away from what has normally been the norm of fine dining. So I think there is a change in fine dining right now in the world, but I don't think it's dead, but it's definitely changing.
Kiana, was that someone kind of like your question that you were wanting to ask earlier? By location?
Yeah, location, culture,
I mean, I get very inspired by traveling, travels to other countries and learn about the food culture. I've just been last year in Colombia, in the Amazonas, and it blew my mind, and so many new impressions we took from there, and now we're working on getting into the restaurant. I mean, ingredient-wise, we try to curate ingredients. There's sometimes interesting and sometimes novel as well. We just do a dish now with jellyfish. That's normally a thing that we don't catch in Denmark. And when we serve the jellyfish raw, we make it into a ceviche. It's a thing that is invasive and it's just there in the ocean. It's an unused ingredient and resource. So it's a thing that we look into that and how can we get this approved and used in the restaurant and make it delicious and edible. And to cultivating our salt butterflies. So we have done a project together. Don't kill the butterflies. This needs to be there. But this is farmed butterflies, and I think people have started to understand that we need to eat insects maybe in the future. So like mealworms and crickets and stuff like that is okay. But when people see a butterfly, it's like, oh no, it's romantic animal. We cannot eat this. But actually, butterflies have very high protein, and this is also kind of like not really discovered in the gastronomical world. So flavor-wise, but also nutrition-wise, it maybe have something to put on the table in the future. And I think for me, it just needs to be something that's relevant, makes sense, and it's also in a way, at least in our platform right now, to be novel, or be something that we don't see every day. So it will be something that maybe can go out and be a day of tomorrow, and then we can twist it down to the rest of society. We take it into the score venture and try to scale it up for more sustainable solutions for the future.
What's one of the most interesting things you've ever eaten?
That's a good question. Like the most interesting thing. We had a butterfly that had like these hazelnut flavors. I think that was very, very interesting, very novel. One of the baddest thing I maybe ever like is this kind of moth. There's like going into a cocoon, and my biologist, there's a part of the restaurant doing all our insects. He said like when you bite into this cocoon, you get this kind of sour cream, and it's so delicious. And it didn't taste at all like sour cream. It was horrible. It was horrible. So there's been many fun things. I can also say that don't eat cow's udder raw. That's really, really bad. I have from when we sometimes occasionally go to the farmers and like what are you normally throwing out because we can get it cheap and then we can serve it in a restaurant and cultivate a very good experience about it. And we got this cow's udder with me home. It was on the right side of I was driving home from the farm, and I could see on the udder it was like start raising milk out of the udder. I think it was very interesting if you could serve like a satar of the cow's udder, and then the milk would kind of raise up through the udder. And we tried that the whole kitchen before service, and we were 2 hours later we were so sick that we were like dying. It was quite crazy. So don't do that. It needs to be cooked, but when you cook it, it tastes a little like cheese. And we made actually this kind of Parmigiano cheese out of the cow's udder that's normally discarded. So maybe that could be a substitute to our dairy industry that is also on pressure. So it's sometimes with innovation and new things it also requires some sacrifice. And this was the sacrifice of the staff that day. Yeah.
Amazing. Favorite cuisine?
I think it must be Japan. I think for me, to go to Japan changed my mind as a chef. The knowledge that is in Japan is amazing. The way that they curate ingredients and through generations and generations, and in many ways it's also a little bit sick. That the way that you stand and you do sushi rice maybe for 6 years before you can move to the fish. But you know a lot about sushi rice after the 6 years, and that knowledge that's been through so many generations is amazing, and the way that they have passed it on has just made it very, very just mind-blowing to go there as a chef, because the layers of flavors and the techniques is on kind of another level than many other countries in the world.
Oh yeah. Jackfruit?
Yeah, I tried it before.
Durian.
Durian, yeah.
Is it like a jackfruit or?
No, it's like very smelly, right? Aromatic. But we have a one in Sweden that's close to Denmark, which is fermented herring, and that's even worse. So we used to very bad smells.
Well, that smells.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We have this fermented herring as well, which is very smelly, and if you Google it on YouTube, sewer swamp, you will see all of these people throwing up every time they're opening a can because it smells so bad. And I thought about once if you should do it in a restaurant, but of course I don't want people to throw up and not like the experience. So it's this balance of challenging them, and I don't know the reason why maybe challenging them with that aromatic smell. If there's a good story to it, maybe it will be something that will happen to appear on the menu. But it's very important to provoke for just provoking is not. I think we would like to use that very carefully in our dishes, because I think it needs to have a why when we do that.
I kind of think of Coachella as we sit here, because most of you came to see a band, but then you're getting some education, you're meeting new people, friends, you come away with new thoughts. So it's very similar to what you're doing, kind of. Yeah. Very cool. One more.
So who chefs I look up to, or like what?
I have there's two in my life, and it should not sound arrogant at all. Right now, I don't think there is any that I have like where I look up to the chef like I look up to a lot of chefs. There's so many talented chefs out there, and I seek inspiration from all kinds of restaurants around the world. But I don't have this like this is my superstar. This is like what I had two in my life in my career. I had Thomas Keller from the States. I think when he published his cookbook about like the French laundry and to say,
it was like blew my mind in like how a chef could be, and I have actually tattooed this like quote on my arm. So I was a big fan of Thomas Keller, and then it went into like Ferran Adler from El Bulli. And I think those have been the two like mentors for me that I've been like, I don't know them, I know a little bit Ferran now, but it's been the one that I've looked up to. And right now I get mainly my inspiration from other fields. I get inspiration looking at this garbage trash, the trash bins out here, and the art behind them. I get inspiration to go to other cultures and learn about the culture and food. And draw more like inspiration from things happening in society and other artistic fields and more social issues out there. Like why do we have so many homeless people? If you look at the States as well, it's like it's a huge problem. How can we maybe do something within this problem? How can we talk about it and express my feelings and opinions about that? So the inspiration right now is not much coming from the food industry anymore. So that changed a little bit for me. And I think it's the same as normally I was inspired by cooking the best product that came in for the season. Like when the asparagus came in, I was like, okay, we need to have very good asparagus on. Now I'm more focusing about some problems I want to talk about, and then I use my craft as a chef to change it.
Thank you, everybody. Really enjoyed this. Thank you.